once Courtney came forward, other women started coming forward.
How did Armie Hammer go from Hollywood golden boy to an alleged abuser?
When all this came out about Armie, I was not shocked.
Hola, ¿cómo están? Soy Susana Moscatel. Bienvenidos a este espacio de M2. Hoy tenemos un programa diferente y es un tema difícil, pero es un tema que tenemos que entender a fondo. Habla de abuso, habla de fama, habla de por qué hay temas que de repente salen a la luz y cambian las cosas. Y específicamente es la historia que nos narra la tía del actor Armie Hammer. Ella se llama Casey. Es un documental en 3 partes que aparece ya lo pueden ver en HBO Max. Ustedes se acordarán que hace poco tiempo, aproximadamente año y medio, 2 años, Armie Hammer, a quien originalmente conocimos por la red social o Call Me By Your Name, By My Name, vaya, Armie era un actor que iba para arriba y de repente desapareció y empezaron a haber rumores de que si era caníbal, de que si abusaba. Una TikToker empezó a hablar de esta historia. Se escribió un libro. Pues bien, ahora la tía es quien está dando toda la información y platicó con nuestra Ivette Salgado, quien realmente le entró de lleno a la materia.
A pleasure for me to talk with you about this documentary because I'm sure we'll help many women who are in the similar cases. So I would like to know at what point you decide to take this step to tell everyone the story about your family.
It was an interesting story in a sense of 7 years ago. I wrote a book that was, for me, journaling and helping me heal and wrap my head around everything that I had experienced in my life growing up. And as you see in House of Hammer, it was pretty horrific and terrifying and scary. And knowing that your mother was okay with everything that was happening and there was no one there to protect me, I really needed to write it down and see how that could help me. And then I self-published it. And I was working in Home Depot 7 years later as a kitchen designer last year in San Diego, and was living a very quiet life. And so one of my coworkers was like, Casey, you need to get on TikTok because there's someone by the name of the Zen Blonde blowing your life up. And I was like, what? I get on TikTok? I'm not computer savvy, nor my social media. I just didn't grow up with it. So again, I get on TikTok and I see the Zen Blonde live reading my book, and 14 videos later, within 2 hours, it's going viral. And in that moment, I was totally not in control of my narrative or my future. And all of a sudden my life was being splashed all over TikTok. And it really was a moment of, why is the universe presenting this to me? Well, it's an opportunity for me to use my platform and use this enormous interest in helping promote and advocate and be an advocate for victims and survivors and helping women heal. And by sharing my story and telling my truth, it's a way of showing people that there are all different kinds of abuse.
Esta es una historia que va más allá de un actor en particular. Es un tema que hemos visto repetido en muchos contextos. Y cuando hay poder, cuando hay mucho dinero, cuando hay mucha influencia y cuando hay hombres misóginos, pasan cosas tremendas. La familia Hammer tiene varias generaciones viviendo este tipo de situación. Por eso, Casey, la tía de Armie, el actor, cuando empezó a verlo hablar de sí mismo en los medios de comunicación, se sintió tan mal que decidió que era el momento de hablar de todo lo que había vivido, no solo ella, sino las mujeres de su familia y por extensión cualquier víctima del abuso en este documental.
Armie started becoming, very out there in the press about what he was doing. And I was reached out for like a moment, a soundbite or, a comment. And I didn't want to go down that route because that wasn't why I originally wrote the book or wanted to share my story. It was about empowering women and victims. And then the producers reached out to me and found my book and sent a letter saying that they had read it. And they wanted to tell my story. And so again, it was being a part of House of Hammer, and then victims coming forward and people participating in the story. And it became this big thing that now when you see it, it's very tailored towards shining a light and holding men accountable, especially the multi-generational Hammers that have, done this kind of thing for years and years and just gotten away with it because of the money they had or the power or the influence. And again, of course, women are afraid to come forward because of that. They're in fear, and I don't blame them. And I'm here to say, if I can come forward and others can come forward, you too can come forward, and you don't need to suffer in silence. So again, it's about empowering women and letting them know that they are heard and that they don't need to do it alone.
Of course. And I believe that this documentary will be fundamental part of showing that a system like this is not correct. And the most important thing is that this documentary gives voice to the victims who for years have been silenced by the patriarchy, a system that only has protect men. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, as a woman growing up in the Hammer family, it was, my father was an only child. So it was my grandfather, my father, and then my brother and his children. So my real grandmother had passed away when I was very little, and my mother, left my father. So again, women in the Hammer family were disposable, and we were like ornaments. And as long as you dressed up and you looked pretty and you said the right things and you didn't embarrass anybody, once you walked outside, you were good and you were taken care of. Again, you were mainly like a fixture on someone's arm or a photo opportunity, because my grandfather was very, very powerful. And back then, not having social media, people weren't exposed to what life was like. So for me, growing up in this horrific family, I didn't know that this wasn't the way all wealthy, famous people were. Like I had no frame of reference. I couldn't go next door to the neighbors and say, hey, do you guys do this to your family? I mean, again, you know what I mean? It's like, I wasn't able to research it or look it up or know. I just had to assume that this is the way all families were. And the movies that you saw were mothers loved their children or fathers loved their children. It was only in the movies.
Así que se pueden dar cuenta que este no es un tema cualquiera, es fuerte, 3 capítulos. La verdadera pregunta es, ¿por qué se están haciendo este tipo de documentales? ¿Por qué podemos en HBO Max, que por cierto está haciendo ya y pronto ya lo veremos en una sola plataforma con Discovery, misma compañía? Esta es la primera producción que HBO toma de Discovery. Y ella, Casey, decidió que tenía que hablar precisamente porque la intención sí es detener este ciclo de abuso. Y la pregunta es, ¿se puede? ¿Se puede hacer esto hablando? Bueno, pues ahora existen los recursos y que ella tenga la posibilidad de hablarlo, y como se lo explicó Ivette Salgado, mejor.
And in the documentary, we see your participation at the end of the first chapter, and it's like a bomb. And we know that you had previously spoken through your book, but how difficult was for you to say what was happening inside the family and at the same time face them, because it looks like a perfect family through the press, to the war. But for you, it's a breaking point, and there is not going back.
It's a challenge, and it continues to be a challenge because, again, you have to have faith that I looked back, and now that House of Hammer has documented my life in a sense and my childhood, I realize I've survived a lot. And so when I started talking on camera for the first time in my life, the last 2 years, I've been drug-free, not self-medicating with prescription drugs, and really just trying to experience my life through without numbing or trying to escape, and being okay with emotions. And I remember, I'm in therapy now, and you can't do it alone. I don't care how together you think you are. You need help, and you need someone to guide you and walk you through the process. Absolutely. And you kind of, again, I've lived this for 61 years, and you get to a point in your life where it's not that you give up, but you kind of have talks with yourself at night. Like, why did I choose this family? Why am I still around? Why are things so challenging? So yes, it's to a point where the people in my family, the Hammermen with the most money and the most power, have the most attorneys and the most influence. And after a while, you just kind of give up. And I really believe that the universe is saying, nope, you're not through yet. Do something good with your life. And again, that's what's exciting for me right now, because watching House of Hammer and the amazing job, I'm so grateful to be a part of something so strong and impactful. And I know it's going to change people's opinions, no matter why you tune in to watch it. After watching all 3 episodes and all 3 hours, I guarantee you, if you tuned in to watch about Armie, you're going to have changed your opinion and your mind about the Hammer family in general, about men in general, about men of power, about abusive men, about consent, about what all that means.
Como les dije, iba a ser un miércoles diferente, pero finalmente todas estas cosas están en las plataformas que estamos viendo. Y si ya acabaron de ver Game of Thrones o su versión precuela, si ya acabaron de ver muchas cosas, hay momentos en los que vale la pena entrarle a estos documentales para reflexionar, porque sí son espejos en muchas ocasiones de cosas que pasan, si no en nuestras vidas, en vidas de gente que tenemos cerca. Todo sea por terminar los ciclos de abuso. Gracias, Ivette, por esta gran entrevista. Gracias, equipo de M2, son lo máximo. Yo soy Susana Moscatel y nos vemos por acá en un ratito.
Descarga, juega, gana.
Presentó.